This is Talk Over Tea,
a place for a casual conversation about life and local government.
With Kassandra
and Claudel Frederic,
elected officials from the city of Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Relax with us for a moment. The tea is hot.
Welcome back to Talk Over Tea. Thanks for joining us. I will take the chance to remind everybody to follow and subscribe and leave comments and share this with your network too. Thanks for being here. Hey, Claudel.
What's up? What is up?
It's another day in paradise.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Another day.
Another day in
Made
paradise.
it. Woke up. I love it.
Yes.
In paradise. Not sure, but we're up and at it. You know.
Welcome back.
Yes. Welcome back.
Welcome back. So today I thought, we talk a lot about Amesbury. And I thought it'd be just interesting to ask you and learn more about all the other places you've lived, and to give people just a chance to learn more about us, and other cities and towns that we've been to, what that was like and what brought us there. So, you ready to just jump right in?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So other places I've lived.
Yeah, where have you lived besides
So
Amesbury?
I haven't really lived in that many other places, but I was born and lived in Waltham for about like the first, I would say, 12 or 13 years of my life.
Okay.
So there's a lot of core memories there and a lot of fun times. And just, I always go back to Waltham because I still have family there.
Okay.
Family and some friends there. So that's one of the places.
Waltham, Massachusetts.
Waltham, Mass.
Is that a big city?
Yes, I'd say Waltham's pretty big.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Did you, like Amesbury is such a small city, sort of as far as like land mass, like area wise. What's Waltham like? Is it spread out? Is there a lot of commercial businesses?
So
Tell us about Waltham.
there's definitely a lot of commercial based business. As a matter of fact, I believe Waltham does have a split rate tax
all right.
over there.
Throw taxes in there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they have a lot of like there's tons of like buildings. There's a lot of like tech companies that are in Waltham. Waltham's I'd say pretty big. Yeah, 100%.
Does do they have a lot of? So you grew up there. You lived there when you were like school age.
Yeah,
kid.
like
Do they have a lot of schools? Like
There's a lot of schools.
Multiple elementary schools. Multiple.
Yeah.
Do they have like one
And
high
then
school?
They have also Brandeis. They also have Bentley University.
It's kind of a college town. Too.
Yeah,
That's
100%. So it's definitely a pretty big city. So the funny thing about Waltham, not funny, but I notice like where you live and during a certain age, it matters because your experience is going to be completely different, right?
Yeah.
So like I lived there from the time I was born to about like 12 or 13, right? So my experience is completely different, but I feel like my experience was great because I lived like across the street from a playground, right? I was walking distance to like a corner store. So when I was old enough to actually like cross the street or like even press the button to cross the street, I could go there with my friends or go to my friend's house up the street. In the summers, I would look out the window and the park would be filled with kids and I could see the fields filled with people.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought it was everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's a lot going on.
Right, exactly. Right there for me. And I could get there. It's not like I was worried about like, going out at night or anything. I wasn't worried about any of that. So I guess if you ask me my experience versus somebody else that was living in Waltham when they were, I don't know, 19 or like my
or if they only went there for college, obviously have a different experience.
Experience, you know what I mean? So I didn't have those college experiences or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I've always looked at Waltham as, it's big and there's a lot of people.
There's like always something going on. It was really active. Like you said, there were people around.
And the
interesting.
demographic was all mixed. There was always like a nice mixture of, in the demographic there. I remember that. The grade schools were like, there's so many. So that was cool for me.
Yeah.
But so I spent a lot of time there. And then after that, it was Methuen.
Okay.
So in Methuen, I was there from, like I would say maybe 8th grade until I graduated high school. And even after like high school, I was still in Methuen for a while. And that was a whole different experience.
Yeah.
Merrimack Valley. Like I felt like growing up in the Merrimack Valley I wouldn't trade that. I would not trade like growing up in the Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
Just because like you have a little bit of everything, literally. Like I just felt like Methuen was like the perfect location in regards to like trying to experience different like cultures, just different things in general. So being there was cool.
And Methuen's still a pretty big city.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any numbers, and
Yeah, I don't know.
In front of me. I don't know how it compares to Waltham,
right?
But compared to Amesbury, I'd say it's a pretty good sized city. Yeah.
So it seems like I went from like the biggest,
yeah,
not the
maybe
biggest,
like a
but
mid-size.
Yeah, exactly, mid-size, and then to be in Amesbury, which is smaller.
So Methuen, you were there as a sort of like teenager.
Yeah.
You said after high school you stayed in Methuen.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was also like very active, has lots of schools, lots of different neighborhoods. Does Methuen have like, I'm going to call it boroughs, but do they have like different?
Like you talking about like East Methuen, West Methuen.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
like I know
Haverhill
Haverhill's a city sort of in between here and Methuen, and they have like Bradford. Like they have different areas. They're still considered Haverhill, but they're sort of like different neighborhoods. Yeah. Does Methuen have something similar?
So similar, but everybody would say, oh, East Side or West Methuen.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean? So it's like Okay. So I'd say it's still pretty big. I would never walk from one side of Methuen to the other. I'm not that motivated.
So it's still pretty big.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
What do you think Methuen's sort of like known for?
The Loop.
Shopping.
Yeah, shopping. Yeah, exactly. I would say.
Was that a place you hung out as a teenager?
Yeah, at one point, yeah. It's like you have nothing else to do with your life on a Friday.
Here's a connection for you, and I know we're very similar in age. I worked at the Gap at the Loop.
Yeah.
When I was in high school.
How was that experience?
So we maybe crossed paths when we were in high school. Who knew?
Perhaps. Yeah. I was definitely one of the well-behaved kids that you saw.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
How was that experience?
I loved working at the Gap. I'm a very organized. I like things to be tidy, and I would just fold. You just folded clothes and like spaced hangers, and had a system.
Okay.
Good. I like that. It was a good intro into retail.
Yeah.
Great customer service experience. I had a good boss. Good manager. It wasn't too far from here, but it was a big store. We had the kids and baby, men's and women's. We had it was a like double sort of big store. So I got to try all kinds of things, which surely served me well. I worked in lots of retail after that, even like local, independently owned kids stores where I folded baby clothes for a long time. So started at the Gap in Methuen.
Hey, Methuen, you see, learning lessons in Methuen.
Yeah.
Huh? That's it.
Yeah.
I feel like Methuen, there was like a lot of, I don't know, maybe I don't think about it enough, but I feel like most of my life lessons were learned in living in Methuen. Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like I've crossed so many paths and just like so many different scenarios.
Yeah.
Just adapting to different things and like it's.
And you still have a good connection to Methuen. You said you go back to Waltham because your family's there.
Yeah.
Do you still go back to Methuen?
I have
a network over there.
Yeah, I have family in Methuen. I have friends in Methuen, Methuen Lawrence area. All of Merrimack Valley, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like and I feel like living in Methuen, you're not just stuck in Methuen. If you're in high school, like you're not just stuck to Methuen.
Yeah.
Like you're hanging out with like Lawrence, Salem, New Hampshire, Haverhill, especially due to like the sports scene in the Merrimack Valley. Like everything's always intertwining. And I guess if you partied, there's a lot of intertwining too. But
did you play sports in high school?
I played defensive bench on the football team.
Okay.
I played the bench.
Defensive bench.
Yeah.
Good, there you go. Took me a second.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
but you traveled with the team, so you had to go to the games with the other team. Yeah.
Most kids start playing football like in Papuana. I didn't play any Papuana football.
Okay.
So first time I played football was I was like a freshman. So basically I was already way
you were on the
behind.
team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it was great
Cool.
to go to the practices and
I
was involved, and it was a lot of lessons learned just being on a team, to be honest.
Yeah.
And without even getting playtime, and for me to think it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tells you something, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
And so then from Methuen, you moved to Amesbury?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amesbury was.
So you moved here as an adult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've only been here since 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. So Amesbury has been an
So we're much
experience.
smaller city
yeah,
than those
definitely.
two.
At first, it was a culture shock for me. It was definitely a culture shock for me at first.
Yeah.
And Amesbury has definitely grown on myself and my family, and it's just it's a different vibe, and it's kind of one of those, like, I feel like I came here at the right age, because I feel like if I came when I was younger, I wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
I feel like being here now, like, I appreciate it so much. Like, I feel like this is the pace that I need. This is the vibe that I need. Like, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
like it. Yeah, small city, never thought
You're
I
a
would.
Massachusetts kid.
Yeah, 100%.
Through and through.
Yeah, through and through. Massachusetts is not the only places you live?
It is not the only place I've lived.
Okay.
Nope. So obviously everyone knows I grew up here, and then, obviously, we talk a lot about Amesbury, but I went to college in Jacksonville, Florida. And I loved Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I loved Jacksonville. It's a huge city.
Yeah.
There's like almost 1 million people in Jacksonville.
Oh, wow.
It's enormous. I think they actually, they always told us this. I don't know if it's true. We've talked about what's true and what's not, but they always told us Jacksonville was the largest city landmass wise in the United States. So it's just, when you look at the borders of Jacksonville, it's just enormous. And like we were just talking about, Haverhill has Bradford and Methuen has, would you say, like east and west. Jacksonville has almost like other towns within Jacksonville. There's the beaches, there's Avondale, there's all these little like areas, and they all have a different sort of vibe and flavor to them. It's one of the reasons I really liked Jacksonville is that you could get a little bit of everything. It felt a little bit like home in that way.
Yeah.
That if you just drove in one direction, you could get kind of what you were looking for. You could get to the beach. You could go downtown, which is a city. I mean, downtown Jacksonville is a city. Avondale or San Marco were like little downtowns. There was like a little piece of New England with independent storefronts, retailers, restaurants, and I was like 19 in college and found some like bougie hair salon in Avondale. It was like probably spending way more money than I should have on getting my hair done, but it felt like home. It was a great little salon in the downtown area, but we were still in Jacksonville. So, it was really cool. The beaches, I did community theater out at one of the, local, theaters down on the beach. So it had a little bit of everything. It was a huge city, which is totally different than Amesbury, but it had pieces of it that really felt like home. But everything in Florida is like a 4-lane highway.
Yeah.
It's not at all like Amesbury. And that was one of the things I really that I really did not enjoy. I really hated having to get on this like major thoroughfare. Like everything is a little cul-de-sac. Like everything's kind of a gated community. That's like planned grid housing development, which is not at all like what things are here.
So was it not like walkable at all?
No.
Or not walkable at all?
Not till you got into one of those little
cul-de-sac type of areas.
those little, or like one of those little neighborhoods like San Marco or Avondale in particular. Those two stand out to me as you could park and walk. You could go to dinner. Then you could kind of shop a little bit and check things out. They weren't huge. There wasn't a lot going on down there, but you could walk around, and they had like little landscaped islands and things like that. You could sort of like picture feeling a lot like a downtown in New England.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was like 4 lanes on each side. So really like an 8-lane highway, traffic lights at every stop, strip malls on each side.
With
and
it
then
being so big.
Gated community. Like then you could turn off into each community. They each had signs of like which, sort of like neighborhood you lived in. And then once you turned in, it was just like endless grid of streets and houses or apartments and that you had to get in your car to go everywhere. You couldn't walk anywhere.
Did it feel like it was mostly locals, or did it feel like it was a melting pot of like just people
a good
kind of making
question.
stops, or were you just living and not paying attention to that?
I mean,
pretty
there's a
much?
few colleges there too,
Yeah.
so you have a little bit of that going on. So I was there in college, like you said, sort of
Yeah.
when like your age and the reason you're in
Yeah.
in a city sort of changes your experience. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
surrounded by a lot of college age
Yep.
students or their or people they met. There was also like a Navy base there, so you had a lot of people that
Yeah.
were a little more transient because of that.
Yeah.
So
So you're
it-
exposed
I
to a
feel
lot.
Like not a lot of people
Yeah.
who would have said I'm from Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Super diverse, like you said, economics, race, like
Everything.
age. Yeah, I mean, super diverse.
Yeah.
It's just a huge city.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was 18 and like thrown into a totally different
Was it
environment
like
than
a
Amesbury.
huge shock to you? Like, how did you react to it? Did you like at first were you like, I miss home, like I want to be home right now, or like, yes, I needed this? Like,
I think people who knew me as a kid would expect the first
Yeah.
reaction, like this is totally outside my comfort zone. I grew up as a really introverted, shy kid. I wouldn't even call in a pizza if I wanted one. I'd make my mother do it, and she loves to tell people that story. So,
wow.
but I went to Jacksonville and just really came into my own. I just like really thrived, and I loved all of that I was surrounded by. I liked, I found a lot of independence, like creating my own schedule, doing things I wanted, exploring new areas, meeting new people. I loved it. I loved Jacksonville. I learned a lot there. I like took on a lot of leadership roles. I was connected in a lot of ways.
So it took you out of your shell.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I loved Jacksonville.
Wow.
So that was my first big venture. And to sort of touch on Amesbury, when I grew up in Amesbury, it did not look like it does now. It was very different. And a lot of people in my class and similar, sort of same age range, a lot of us graduated and said, we're getting
guys
out of here.
ran.
We're getting out of
Yeah.
here. Like we were going, which actually maybe leads me to the next point. One of my classmates went to Australia for college, and I actually studied abroad in Australia and met up with them over there. But like people went far. People were like, I'm going to Florida. I'm going to, whatever, Arizona. Like people went, we all scattered. Most of us are back. Things have changed, so we came back. But yeah, we went to Florida, and again, location wise, you could get to anything. We used to drive to Orlando. We'd go to Disney. We used to drive to Daytona.
Yeah.
We drove to Cocoa Beach. We took spring break in the Keys.
Yeah. Yeah.
We drove to Charleston and Savannah. You could, it was
Do you
a
still
great
go
location.
back to? Have you been back to Jacksonville, or do you still go back?
I went back more when I was in grad school. I was in
Yeah.
South Carolina. It was a little easier to sort of hop down to Jacksonville. I
Yeah.
went back to Jacksonville a year or so ago. I was invited to speak at a ceremony down there, so I went down for
Nice.
that, but I hadn't been there in a while. It was good to get back, and campus changes a lot. Everything else kind of came back like riding a bike. I knew my way around and what was going on, but even their business and economic development, like everything's changed. They started building a mall a little bit like our Market Street Linfield, like open air malls were they were starting when I was in college in Florida. So theirs is very built up. Ours are up here are just getting started. When I was in college down there, they were just putting in empty curb cuts. Like something will go here someday.
Oh,
and
wow.
now it's all built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where else? Anywhere else?
So then I studied abroad in Australia.
Okay. So you ended up. Oh yeah. You said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I met up with, I hadn't really made that connection to start with, but once I got to Australia, I met up with a former classmate of mine. Again, really blowing the mind of my family, I'm sure, when I said I wanted to study abroad, coming from my background. But I thought I would go over with a group of kids from school, and we'd, at least have some familiar faces. And it turned out that semester that I chose, no one else was going, so I went alone.
Was that a little scary?
So a little bit. So I packed as much as I could into very large suitcases and went over to Sydney, Australia. And I was, I grew up, dancing. I have a background in performing arts, and went over there to just take core classes. I couldn't take any of my dance performing arts classes there, but I went over and just said, I'll take a bunch of core classes. I chose Australia, frankly, because they spoke English. It was like some safety net for myself. But went to Sydney because I could go to the Opera House. I took dance classes on the pier on like Saturday mornings. Everything was public transit. You know, I didn't have a car. We took buses everywhere. I went to Macquarie University, big university. There were other Americans there. We kind of, you know, congregated and came together. And some of them, I kind of kept in touch with after we got back to. But one of the interesting things there is that a lot of the college students were older. Like they didn't go right to uni after high school. It is a popular destination for Americans. So our professors sort of knew the drill. They knew what we were doing. And always sort of talked about like, yeah, our classes here are harder than yours. So just come to our office hours. We'll help you. But that was awesome. I did a spring semester over there, and I traveled as much as I could while I was there. I took surf lessons. I took our spring break. I went to Fiji.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was once in a lifetime opportunity. Like you said, we've kind of said already, when the timing that you use when you're in a place matters. I don't know that I'd want to go back,
right?
Because it wouldn't be the same,
right?
The people wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It was, I was like, I don't even think I was 21 yet, but the drinking age is 18 there. So we'll let that lie. But it was fun, there was a lot of.
I have a question about like just your day to day. Like, how was the food? Like, was the food different? Like, how was like?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So how did you adapt to just that? Like in general.
It was. Oh my gosh, that just like brought back so many memories.
Throwing up?
No, so good.
Okay, good.
They had these chocolate cookies that we just loved. I wish I could remember the name. It'll come to me as soon as we're done recording. We loved those. Their food was good.
Yeah.
Just things that were different. They had these, I don't know what they were, these chocolate cookies. They were so good. And then we like stir fried a lot, where we would, and they had this sauce that we used that I haven't really found back here, that I probably would never have eaten otherwise, but that was really good too. So we stir fried a lot of vegetables, a lot of just meat. They have like emu pies and stuff over there. I don't think I ever tried one. But like meat pies it's like a thing to try. And do that. I held a koala.
Oh, well, that's not.
Yeah, you do.
You don't just walk down the street and hold a koala out here. So. I got to like take a picture of the kangaroo and stuff like that. But the emus are like a weird. I'm gonna call them a bird. I don't even know if that's like technically what they are, but. Yeah, they make emu pies. That's a part of a. So it doesn't sound like
thing.
The transition was too difficult for you.
No, Sydney's a really cool place. Yeah. It's like very chill, especially got from Florida. So a lot of people, if you've ever like lived in New England and then lived in the South, the pace of life is very different. It's a lot slower in the South. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Take your time. You're not like rushing through the grocery store when you're in Florida.
Yeah.
Or one of the Carolinas or anything like that. So if I had gone from Boston to Sydney, that might have been a little different. Yeah. But going from Florida to Sydney, again, like very chill surfer vibe, cool place to be. No, it was awesome.
Did they have like regular work weeks?
Yeah.
Or like a Monday through Friday? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, classes Monday through Friday. Yeah, so I went to, because I was studying abroad, they had like a sister office over there, and they organized trips and stuff for us. So that was a little bit, specialized. But otherwise, we had their classes. Again, I came from my university in Jacksonville was really small, but this was a big university. So we were in like, our classes were in lecture halls with lots of people, and then you had office hours with like a TA which is probably typical for big universities here, but I didn't have that experience. So that was different for me. You'd have to go to the hours with the TA, and then you could get office hours after that. So, went to class, and then hung out on campus. They had restaurants and bars all over campus, and they have like their version of Walmart and Yeah.
I'm just thinking
That's
you
cool.
went there like by yourself.
I
So
did.
it's like making like, especially you said you were pretty timid, right?
Yes.
So it's like to make your first friend or like how
Yeah.
did that even come about? Like that sounds tough to me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When you're in a situation like that, certainly outside of your comfort zone, but they do, because I was studying abroad with a program, even though I was the only one from my university. The first thing we did was actually a trip, like a weekend trip, out in the bush. Like, we like camped. And so there were other Americans, other
Okay.
people like traveling who were part of that. Some of them were at my university. And so we kind of, I don't even remember how I met some of these people, but I think some of them were for that trip. And then I lived with, so they live in flats, which are like townhouse style places. We were in campus housing, but in a flat, and I lived with other Americans. I met them, and then there were others nearby. They were sort of like, it was like an apartment complex almost. So there were other people. We just met, our neighbors and stuff like that, and they'd like play catch in the lawn, and we'd hang out and eat pizza, and you just meet people. Like, you meet people in class.
Yeah. No, definitely. But you made it work.
We made it
Timid
work.
or not, you made it work. All right.
We made it work.
Good.
Yeah.
Was
So
that your last
Sydney.
destination, or did you go
The
anywhere
only other
else?
place I've lived is Columbia, South Carolina, when I went to grad school.
Okay.
So I studied abroad as a junior, finished my senior year in Jacksonville, and then had connections to the University of South Carolina in a particular grad program. It was a full-time grad program. You had to have an assistantship, so I moved to Columbia, lived on campus, and participated in that program, and lived there for 2 years full-time before I graduated and moved back to Amesbury. So
How was
2
that
years in South
experience?
Carolina.
Was that like,
Hot?
what would you compare? Where would you compare South Carolina to?
Oh,
Like,
nothing else.
yeah. Oh,
Columbia, I've always lived by the water.
Yeah.
Jacksonville was near the water. Amesbury, obviously, we're near the water. Columbia is like an oven. That's my biggest.
that's your
That's
core
what it's known
memory,
for.
huh?
It's hot. No, it's not really what it's known for, but I had to be there in the summer. I did my first assistantship was in housing, so I had to be there to prep the dorms. I lived in the res hall. And just like walking outside between buildings it was just so hot. It was just like a gross, sweaty oven. It was just gross. It's ugh. But I guess maybe similar to Jacksonville, they had, it has like little neighborhoods. It's certainly more walkable, more like tree-lined streets, boulevards. It's like maybe feels a little bit more planned and organized, less like major highways, not so much of the like 4 8-lane highways. So it was a little bit of a hybrid between Massachusetts and
Would you say
Florida.
it's just as slow paced as Jacksonville?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Slow. One of the things I'll never forget at the grocery store in South Carolina, the clerks walk your grocery cart to your car for you. So you've done checking out, and they follow you to your car, and they'll help empty the cart into your trunk.
Yeah.
Which was at first it like throws you off a little bit, and then you just like learn to chat with them just like you
Yeah.
would at the checkout. But yes, like slow, like that's if you're in a hurry, that is not what you're looking for. Is some
Right. No.
young kid to help walk or whoever it might be to help walk your groceries to the car.
My cousin's wife was telling me the same thing about like Kroger's.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, we need a Kroger's in Massachusetts." I was like, "Why?" She was like, "Well, they're way more polite."
Yeah.
Like if you ask them
They
about
walk
like
their-
where the pasta or the sauce is, they'll walk you to the aisle
Yeah.
and get it for you.
It's different.
They don't act like you're inconveniencing them. She was like,
Yeah.
it's a whole different vibe. So it sounds
Yeah.
like it's just the South in general.
Yeah, it's definitely a different pace. But they had really great neighborhoods. Not so much neighborhoods, but sort of like parts of streets, like just little
Yeah.
strips that had a lot of independent small retailers and restaurants, also good hair salons, that were like felt very much like home. It was again a little smaller. It was still a big city. It's the capital of South Carolina, so that the state house is there. Which sort of brought a different dynamic, and the University of South Carolina alone is huge, but the campus is not gated. My campus in Florida was gated,
Yeah.
but in Columbia it's a little more like a campus you might see here in Boston. I mean, Columbia is not like Boston. It's not so vertical. But the streets going through campus are just regular public ways. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a hybrid. I met some great people there in my program. I worked with great students. Again, really diverse population in all ways.
Do you think living in all these places have really impacted like the person that you've become?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Like a lot of your experiences and just like lessons in life and stuff like that. Yeah.
Just exposure
Yeah.
is like and I feel like I approach everything sort of as a sponge. I just want to soak in as much as I can. So I've learned a lot from all of those places and experiences. And even looking back now, I think of them differently. I remember different parts to them. I mean, South Carolina has a huge football culture. They actually do have, my second year, I lived in an off-campus apartment. I transitioned my assistantship, and I lived in a big old mill building. It was a cotton mill. And so I have this different connection to a mill. And I remember they'd done a really nice job with this renovation and really connected to the history and created this sense of place. And that was the first sort of shift for me, thinking differently about Amesbury and about our history and about what happened in our mills. And so it all really has all of my experiences have been very connected and helped certainly bring me to where I am today.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's destination is an accident, like wherever it happens and whenever it happens.
Yeah.
I don't usually think it's an accident, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's good though. Those had positive impacts in your life, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There are 3 pretty cool places to be. Yeah. And even getting to those places was almost an accident, you know? I didn't just, I wasn't a junior in high school, and the first place I picked was not Jacksonville University, but, through some trials and, research and,
it fell in. That's
where we ended up. Yeah, that's where we ended up. So
exactly.
It was definitely meant to be, and has been great. So, so cool. 3 different cities, all great experiences, all different places, and a chance for people to learn a little bit more about us.
Yeah.
What's made us who we are and how we got here.
Yeah.
And thanks for a good chat, a good talk over tea.
It was a good talk over tea.
Yeah. Have a good one. We'll be back soon.
Cheers to more traveling.